Let us start with exempted services. Now, first is the services which are provided by entity which is registered under 12AA of the Income Tax Act. So, can you tell me which entity is registered under 12AA of the Income Tax Act? Which is nothing but, huh?
Trust.
Yes, trust. आपने income tax में पढ़ा रहेगा the trust or charitable institution or NGO which is uh, registered in income tax uh, under section 12AA, so they will be entitled to getting exemption here also, but the necessity condition is they should be providing charitable activities. Like certain cases you have both the activities, charitable as well as non-charitable, but GST exemption is provided only for charitable activities. Now this will include public health activities relating to public health, which will be in the form of care and counseling, terminally ill people, HIV/AIDS, person addicted to dependence forming substance such as drugs. So इसके लिए अगर आप लोगों ने कुछ charitable activity किया या फिर programs arrange किया, so it happens that people arrange certain programs और नशा मुक्ति केंद्र करके आपने सुना रहेगा. So many of the institutions work on a non-profit making basis. So these are registered trusts which are providing these activities. So that will be totally exempted from taxes. Then you have public awareness regarding prevention of health, family planning, and prevention of HIV infection. So this will help you to create the awareness amongst the public, and this uh, awareness can be created through different programs like advancement of a religion, spirituality, or yoga. So again, in yoga, now you might have come across certain programs where they offer you free of cost, or certain kendra like certain places it is offered completely free of cost, and it is completely based on the voluntary contributions. If you feel contributing something, so they take voluntary donations or they charge very nominal fees like 100 or 500 rupees for a complete course. So that activity would be considered as tax free. But there are people who do it on a commercial level also. Like you might have heard about different types of uh, 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 activities, like people will have the 5 days program, Saturday, Sunday program, and they charge exorbitantly. Like they charge you maybe 5 to 10,000 per session also. So some people, or they come to your house, they provide you personal consultancy, or they provide personal training services. So like you might have heard about power yoga or different types of yoga practices have been followed that way. So the activity which is taken on a commercial basis, so that will not be exempted from taxes. You cannot just highlight the word yoga and claim exemption. What matters is how you are providing that activity. That's what matters the most. Next is advancement of any educational program or skill development program, which is mainly for orphaned and homeless children or physically handicapped or physically abused uh, people, then prisoners, and then senior citizens above 65 years of old, then prevention of environment, including watershed, forest, and wildlife. So, based on this, you can expect certain questions. So, what they will do is they will provide you these activities, like certain skill development programs are provided for them, and sometimes they are doing the activity which is for preservation of the environment. So all these activities would be considered as totally exempted from taxes. Okay, then services received from a provider of service located in non-taxable territory by an entity registered under Section 12AA of the Income Tax Act for the purposes of providing charitable activities, again it is exempted from taxes. Now, when we talk about these practices, certain additional practices would also come into picture, like acupuncture therapies or acupressure therapies, Reiki or pranic healing, or certain other practices which also be mentioned. But these practices are not specific, even though they're healing methods or healing techniques, but they are not coming under the list of exempted services. So if the question is specifically talking about pranic healing sessions or Reiki sessions or shamanic healing sessions, so if that is given in the form of a charitable activity or as a form of service, that activity would be considered to be a taxable activity. Now, again, the question arises whether the person, like every person, should pay taxes on that or not. Again, that depends on the turnover of that person. Because many times it happens that the person, even though the person is doing on commercial basis, but his total turnover may be 5 to 6 lakh a year or 10 lakhs a year. So once your turnover is maybe 10 lakhs or even 15 lakhs, you did not get registered, right? Because the total turnover criteria remains same. So if you're not crossing 20 lakh, that exemption is obviously available to all. But can I say my service is exempted from taxes? The answer is no to that question. Okay. But again, in all these forms, if you are providing free of cost services, so that free of cost services would be again tax free, because if you get something in return or if you get some form of return for the services rendered, then only your activity will become a taxable activity. All right. Then second point is transfer of a going concern as a whole or an independent part thereof. So many times it happens that you are transferring your business to another person as a going concern. Going concern means your business is already a continuing business. It is a profit making business, but due to some reason you feel like discontinuing. Maybe a proprietor business is converted into a company or partnership firm business is sold to a company or vice versa. So when this kind of activity, when a going concern is transferred to another person, so this services which is provided by way of transfer for going concern as a whole or part thereof are again exempted from taxes. So obviously, if you are getting some amount for that, then it is not liable for GST. And why they have kept it as exemption? Because now see, you are already shutting down your business. So obviously there has to be some reason for which you are shutting down. And again, if they charge you GST for that specific activity, then obviously it should not be considered as taxable. Next is pure services. So where we are not talking about works contract service. So basically works contract service is a service where you are providing goods as well as services. So most famous example is the example of a construction activity. So when you're doing or when you're providing construction service, obviously certain material and certain service element will be provided together. So that will be considered as a works contract service. But here the exemption is not for the works contract service, but exemption is for pure services. So pure services means there is no element of goods part into that. So it is a pure service kind of activity which has been given, and or other composite supplies which involve supply of any goods provided to the central government, state government, union tertiary or local authority, or a government authority by way of any activity in relation to any function entrusted to a panchayat under Article 243G of the Constitution, or in relation to any function which is mentioned for the municipality under Section 243W. Now, this list you need not by heart because they are giving you so many activities which are basically, now if you see, look at the left hand side, it is 243G, which talks about a panchayat. So mainly most of the activities, if you see, they are connected to the Gram Panchayat. So the panchayat where the activities, specific activities have been undertaken, so those activities would be considered here, 243G. And certain activities are in relation to the municipality, so that is covered under 243W, that is on the right hand side. So if you look at the activities, you can easily make out what are the types of activities which are involved. So mainly agricultural activities, then marketing of agricultural produce, then providing the pesticides or providing the fertilizers or providing the marketing channels or avenues through which you can market your product, or providing agro machinery or extension project. So obviously agro will include the other parts like milk and other products. So animal husbandry, fisheries, social forestry, these kind of activities will also be forming part of that. So along with this, the other activities which usually a panchayat will provide, so those activities will be considered here. So those activities will consider one by one. So khadi village, cottage industry, rural housing, drinking water, fuel and fodder. So these activities which are relating to panchayat, so those will be considered here. Then rural electrification, then distribution of electricity. So sometimes in rural area there is an interesting part where they take the help of industry. Now certain industries definitely plan for their own development, at the same time development of a village. So they shift their business from urban to rural area. Like in income tax also, you must be aware there is an exemption that if you're shifting your business from urban area to rural area, you can get that exemption. So if you're shifting your business like from urban area to rural area, naturally certain income tax exemptions are given. Likewise, here also certain exemptions are given. So here what happens is the panchayat authorities, with the help of these companies, they try to build up certain plans. Like certain villages, if you see, for supplying the material, they establish their own railway tracks. So government gives them support, no doubt, but it's a kind of combination activity where the funding will be given by the company, but ultimately the benefit, again, the tracks will be made for delivery of the material for the benefit of company. But indirectly, government is also getting the route or line which is created. Likewise, electricity distribution. So if they need more electricity, they will ask you to generate electricity and help them in the distribution. So if you at least providing fund, if you provide funding for that, so that is a kind of service which has been provided. Then non-conventional form of energy like solar energy or windmills. So that is a non-conventional energy forms. So again, that is kind of, and even if you see nowadays, there are so many new concepts have been introduced wherein with the help of like there's new concept like where the waste material is used for processing and creating and transforming into a power or electricity. Then poverty alleviation program. So you have to remove poverty or reduce the percentage of people who are in poor conditions. Then library, cultural activity, market space, family welfare, women and child development, social welfare. So all these activities will be considered. And again, a PDS, that is important, public distribution system. So all these activities relating to panchayat, that would be totally exempted from taxes, because uh, indirectly or directly the government is involved there. Then you have activities here in municipality. So here you talked about villages, here you will talk about the urban area. So in urban area, urban planning, then town planning, land protection, its development, construction of buildings, supply of water, roads, bridges, fire services. So many activities which are relating to the urban area, like urban poverty eradication, then provision of urban amenities, promotion of cultural and educational activities, then street lighting, parking lots, bus stops, public conveniences, and slaughtering of houses and tanneries. So all these activities which are coming under the municipality, that would be coming under the exempted category of services. Here, the department has made an amendment. Like once we start the first line of this uh, third clause said that it should be only pure services, and pure services they specifically said no works contract. So if works contract is there, we'll make it taxable. Now department themselves have understood that 100% works contract or providing only the service element is difficult, and therefore they have introduced the concept of composite supply of goods and services. So department agrees that it can be a certain percentage of goods and certain percentage of services. So we'll provide both of them, but the percentage of goods should not be more than 25%. So that is the condition. So third clause they said it should be only service. Now they are saying up to 25% of the total supply can be a supply of goods, but rest should be supply of services. But this service should be provided to the central government, state government, union territory, or governmental company or authority, which is mentioned about, like 243G and 243W. These activities, if you are providing to government, then it is exempted from tax liability. All right. So you need not by this list. You just remember Gram Panchayat 243G and municipality, that is 243W. Okay. Now this is pretty simple. Like fifth point, you can not ignore per se, but it is similar to the earlier point. Only difference is here we're talking about services by central state government in connection with the activity for municipality, that is 243W. Means here a person who was providing service to government for municipality, that was covered in point number 3. Now we're talking a situation where the government itself is providing service to a specific municipality, so that would be covered under point number 4. And point number 5 will talk about 243G, wherein we're talking about services provided by the government to panchayat. So if the government authorities are providing services to panchayat, that will be covered under 243G, and accordingly both the services would be exempted from tax liability. Okay. Then services by central, state government, union, territory, local authority, excluding the following services. Now this you have to mark well. So point number 6, it should be mark kar lo usko. It is an important point where they are saying कि services of government ने service दिया तो वो tax. Naturally अभी ये क्या time pass करने का, एक government service collect करेगा, GST collect करेगा, दूसरे को दे देगा. So it is just changing the hands. Money is changing the hands, but ultimately government के पास ही पैसा रहा. So here they are saying कि जो सेंट्रल, स्टेट, यूनियन टेरिटरी या लोकल अथॉरिटी प्रोवाइड करेगा, ये सर्विसेज छोड़ के बाकी सभी सर्विसेज क्या होगा आपके लिए, टैक्सेबल होगा. अभी वो सर्विसेज में क्या क्या आएगा, तो दैट पार्ट वी हैव टू चेक. नाउ एक्सक्लूडिंग द सर्विसेज. नाउ एक्सक्लूजन्स में कौन कौन सा सर्विसेज है इधर. Services by way of Department of Post, by way of Speed Post, Express Parcel Post, Life Insurance Agency services, which is provided to a person other than central government. So government ने दूसरे किसी person को भेजा. Like suppose I tried to check or I tried to use post services, but then unfortunately their system was down, so I couldn't do speed post. So speed post option got cancelled. But suppose if I would have send your books through speed post, then what could have happened? Then individual is receiving services from the government, and since speed post is taxable, उसके ऊपर उन्होंने मुझे जीएसटी चार्ज किया है. अभी कुछ किसके ऊपर, तो स्पीड पोस्ट के लिए जितना अमाउंट वो मुझसे कलेक्ट करेंगे उसके ऊपर उन्होंने मुझे जीएसटी चार्ज किया है, अगर मैं स्पीड पोस्ट से भेजता तो. Okay. Next is services in relation to aircraft vessel inside or outside the precincts of a port or an airport. So aircraft या vessel services जो port के नजदीक दिया जाता है, so that is in connection with the services of aircraft or vessel. Then transport of goods and passengers or any service other than services covered under the entries A to C provided to business entities. It means all types of supply of services are taxable unless specifically exempted from GST. Now, government is very intelligent. What they are saying is they don't want to keep taking burden on their head. So, for government services, what they have said, RCM would be made applicable. So, what is RCM? Reverse charge mechanism. So, here the person who is receiving services is liable to pay taxes to government. So, जो बंदा उनसे सर्विस रिसीव करेगा वो आरसीएम के अंडर उनको टैक्स भरेगा. लेकिन ऑब्वियसली ये ऊपर वाली जो सर्विसेज है वहां पे तो गवर्नमेंट हमें खुद चार्ज करता है, तो वहां पे आरसीएम नहीं आएगा. लेकिन बाकी सर्विसेज में आरसीएम प्रोविजंस वुड बी मेड एप्लीकेबल. सो एसएससी हु इज रिसीविंग सर्विसेज विल tell you that or will give you the indication that now you have to, means they will, while billing you, they will add the amount of GST into your bill, and then they will collect taxes and deposit. But as far as point number D is concerned, where they are providing services to business entities, obviously there are two more conditions attached to that. That we'll see in point number 7 and 8. The conditions I'll just tell you now. The service amount should be more than 5,000. So that is the most important part. That अगर वो business entity को मैं सर्विस दे रहा हूँ 5,000 से कम है तो डिपार्टमेंट बोलता है जाने दो, छोड़ दो. तो पहले तो वो सर्विस 5,000 का होना चाहिए. सेकेंडली दैट पर्सन शुड बी अ रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन ना. अगर आप अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन हो, लाइक कल गवर्नमेंट ने आपको सर्विस दिया ना, इफ यू आर नॉट अ रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन एंड आपको बोला कि इसके ऊपर टैक्स भर दो, तो उसके लिए थोड़ी आप रजिस्ट्रेशन लोकेट लेके टैक्स भरोगे ना. दैट इज नॉट something which is practically possible. Means it is possible, but it doesn't make sense, because just for that service if you want to get registration and then do this compliance throughout your life. So it is quite risky for the business to collect GST and pay for subsequent transaction. ये transaction में तो चलो हो गया, but हर एक transaction जिधर जरूरी नहीं उधर भी अगर GST charge करना है तो it is the survival of the business may be difficult. So that's why they are saying कि the person should be a registered person. तो अगर registered person ने service लिया है तो उसको taxes भरने का कुछ calculation उसको करना पड़ेगा. Otherwise it is not required. That's what they are giving you in this point that aggregate turnover is more than 20 lakhs. So they are saying कि देखो जो लेटेस्ट रूल्स है ना उसके हिसाब से हमें जाना है. जैसे हमने देखा था कि पहले सिर्फ 10-20 था, फिर उन्होंने 10-20-40 कर दिया कि जहां पे हम लोग रिसेंट देखते हैं अमेंडमेंट कि जहां पे सर्टेन स्टेट्स में उन्होंने 40 लाख का लिमिट रखा, तो वहां पे चेंज कर दे तो सब प्रोविजंस में जिधर जिधर 20 लाख का टर्नओवर मेंशन किया सब जगह पे वो स्पेसिफिक एरिया के लिए 40 लाख का टर्नओवर के हिसाब से हम लोग कैलकुलेशन कंसीडर करें. So that part you have to consider well, that when the central government is providing services to a business entity whose turnover is more than the limit, then they are required to get registration and then they are required to pay taxes under RCA. That's what they have mentioned here कि जो changes है वो change amendment जो हुआ है उसके हिसाब से यहाँ पे हम लोग action ले लेंगे. Then yes. अब इधर उन्होंने certain examples दिया है तो it will become easy for you to understand. So next part is they are saying it should be more than 5,000. 5,000 के ऊपर रहेगा तो GST आएगा, otherwise GST नहीं आएगा. तो ये देखो आपको ये टोटल लिंकेज करना है. तो ये लिंकेज में क्या क्या पॉइंट है देखो. एक तो सर्विसेज इज प्रोवाइडेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट, तो गवर्नमेंट के साइड से आपको सर्विस मिलना चाहिए. सेकेंडली इट इज प्रोवाइडेड टू अ बिजनेस एंटिटी हु इज रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन. तो इसके लिए हमने टर्नओवर का क्राइटेरिया देखा कि 20,000 के ऊपर आपका टर्नओवर होना चाहिए. देन वी हैव सीन द थर्ड कंडीशन कि बिल एकदम ही चिंदी अमाउंट का 4-5 हजार का नहीं होना चाहिए, 5 के ऊपर होना चाहिए. If all the answers to these questions are yes, then other than those specified services which is covered under 6 ABC and exemption notification, बाकी सब services क्या होगा, taxable होगा. Not covered under any other exemption notification कि किसी specific section में बोला है कि जैसे lawyer का service है तो lawyer is not supposed to pay GST और lawyer is not supposed to collect GST. So again that will be considered कि जो exemption notification अलग से दिया है वो भी हम लोग consider करेंगे, या फिर जहाँ पे exemption नहीं दिया उसको taxable कर देंगे. Lastly taxable under RCM. So अगर ये सबका आंसर yes है तो आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, RCM के अंडर इधर taxes पे करना पड़ेगा. Alright. So first one is services provided by the government to a business entity who is registered. Then the amount of bill is more than 5,000. Then we'll be covering tax payable under RCM. इसके हम लोग एग्जाम्पल देखते हैं जो हमने बीच में स्किप किया था. अभी एक एक ट्रांजैक्शन हम लोग खोल के देखते हैं कि हर एक में क्या क्या करना पड़ेगा. अभी जो फर्स्ट पॉइंट है दैट पॉइंट इज इन कनेक्शन विद स्पीड पोस्ट. अभी हमें देखना है नेचर ऑफ सर्विस क्या है कि सर्विस किस तरीके का प्रोवाइड होगा. स्पीड पोस्ट सर्विस प्रोवाइडेड बाय द डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पोस्ट टू गवर्नमेंट. अभी हमने पहले रूल देखा था कि गवर्नमेंट को कुछ सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर दिया तो हम लोग वो सर्विसेज को क्या करते हैं, हम लोग वो सर्विसेज को एग्जम्प्टेड कैटेगरी में आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं. एंड व्हाई इट इज आइडेंटिफाइड एज एग्जम्प्टेड गुड्स और एग्जम्प्टेड सर्विसेज is mainly because when we talk about the exemption notification, तो गवर्नमेंट का सर्विसेज स्पेसिफिक एग्जम्पशन कैटेगरी में एग्जम्पशन लिस्ट में इंक्लूड होना है, तो उसके हिसाब से हम लोग क्या करेंगे, उसको एग्जम्प्टेड कैटेगरी में डाल देंगे. देन सेकेंड यू हैव express parcel post services by Department of Post provided to a business entity. स्पीड पोस्ट का एक पॉइंट आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. स्पीड पोस्ट में जहां जहां पोस्ट ऑफिस डिपार्टमेंट आपको कुछ सर्विस दे रहा है, फिर पोस्ट ऑफिस डिपार्टमेंट आपको कुछ आपसे कुछ कलेक्ट करवा रहा है, तो वो केस में पोस्ट ऑफिस डिपार्टमेंट को ही क्या करना पड़ेगा, जीएसटी चार्ज करना पड़ेगा। तो वहां पे आरसीएम का कुछ आने का सवाल ही नहीं, तो वहां पे आरसीएम एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा। आरसीएम विल बी एप्लीकेबल ओनली व्हेन द अदर सर्विसेज, ये सब जो स्पेशल टैक्सेबल सर्विसेज है वो छोड़ के जो सर्विसेज है वो केस में क्या होगा, वो प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा एंड अकॉर्डिंगली यू विल स्टार्ट डूइंग द कैलकुलेशंस। Then you have services in relation to an aircraft or a vessel inside or outside the precincts of the port. Now, here it is also a taxable supply. Supplier of service is liable to pay tax because it is not covered under RCM. ये RCM के अंदर नहीं आता, तो यहाँ पे कुछ RCM के अंदर टैक्सेस भरना आपको नहीं पड़ेगा।
सर उसमें आरसीएम एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, मतलब नॉर्मल इसमें सप्लायर पे करेगा सर्विसेज।
हाँ, जिधर आरसीएम एप्लीकेबल नहीं उधर सप्लायर सर्विसेज मतलब सर जीएसटी जो है वो सप्लायर पे करेगा।
ओके ओके
सर ये हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि जीएसटी किसके किसके ऊपर एप्लीकेबल है, तो स्पीड बेस्ड पोस्ट के ऊपर एप्लीकेबल नहीं है क्या? एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई लिखा है।
देखो वो सिर्फ पहले में है, कौन सा है कि इट इज प्रोवाइडेड बाय डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पोस्ट टू गवर्नमेंट।
ओके ओके ओके,
वो वाला एग्जाम्प्ट है, बाकी में एग्जाम्पशन नहीं।
ठीक।
Then you have transport of goods and passenger. Again, it is not covered under RCM. तो जो supplier of service है उनको टैक्स भरना पड़ेगा। Then renting of immobile property for commercial nature to business entity whose turnover in the last year is 18 lakhs. अभी it is a taxable supply, no doubt कि ये taxable supply में आएगा because it is renting of immobile property. But the question arises, are you required to pay GST on this transaction? Are you required to pay GST?
सर क्वेश्चन समझा नहीं, एक बार फिर से बोलिए ना।
Renting of immobile property for commercial nature to business entity whose turnover in the previous year is 18 lakh. तो उनका लास्ट ईयर का टर्नओवर 18 लाख है, उनको अगर हम लोगों ने टैक्सेबल मतलब रेंट किया प्रॉपर्टी, तो इसके ऊपर जीएसटी एप्लीकेबल है या नहीं है, whether the government entity will be required to, sorry, whether the business entity will be required to pay GST under RCM. मतलब सपोज गवर्नमेंट ने एक एबीसी लिमिटेड को सर्विस दिया है एंड वो एबीसी लिमिटेड का लास्ट ईयर का टर्नओवर 18 लाख है, तो whether that ABC limited is required to pay taxes?
No. नहीं, no sir.
क्यों?
So because turnover is below 20 lakhs.
Turnover is below 20 lakh indicates unregistered person, and for an unregistered person the GST provisions are not applicable. जो हमने ऊपर देखा, पहले तो क्या होना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट ने सर्विस देना चाहिए, 5000 के ऊपर होना चाहिए, वो पर्सन रजिस्टर्ड होना चाहिए, लेकिन अगर वो अनरजिस्टर्ड है तो आरसीएम के अंदर वो टैक्स नहीं भरेगा। तो गवर्नमेंट को तो टैक्स कलेक्ट करना है, तो गवर्नमेंट क्या करेगा, गवर्नमेंट खुद टैक्स कलेक्ट करके उसको डिपॉजिट करेगा। Okay, other services provided to business entity whose previous year turnover is 8 lakhs. अदर मतलब रेंटिंग वगैरह छोड़ के बाकी सर्विसेज में तो हमने पॉइंट देखा था कि 20 लाख के ऊपर नीचे रहेगा तो आपको जीएसटी मतलब नॉन टैक्सेबल सप्लाई जो है तो उसके ऊपर तो आपको जीएसटी भरना ही नहीं पड़ेगा। हमने जो ऊपर वाला सर्विसेज देखा थे आगे जो 243 में कवर हुआ था पॉइंट नंबर 7 में। तो पॉइंट नंबर 7 का जो सर्विसेज है वो एग्जम्प्टेड कैटेगरी में आ जाए। ओके, देन अदर सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड टू बिजनेस एंटिटी हुज प्रीवियस ईयर टर्नओवर इज 22 लाख। अभी क्या हुआ, उनका सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड किया हमने, लेकिन किसको प्रोवाइड किया? बिजनेस एंटिटी को प्रोवाइड किया जिसका टर्नओवर कितना है? 22 लाख। अभी अगर टर्नओवर 22 लाख है तो इसके ऊपर गवर्नमेंट तो टैक्स नहीं भरेगा, सामने वाले पार्टी को भी टैक्स नहीं आता अगर वो अनरजिस्टर्ड रहता तो। लेकिन यहाँ पे उसका टर्नओवर 22 लाख है, मतलब वो एंटिटी क्या है? रजिस्टर्ड एंटिटी। एंड अगर रजिस्टर्ड एंटिटी है तो ये क्या बनेगा? टैक्सेबल सप्लाई बनेगा। एंड यहाँ पे बिजनेस एंटिटी को, मतलब जिस कंपनी को हम लोगों ने सर्विस दिया, वो कंपनी को आरसीएम के अंडर टैक्सेस भरना पड़ेगा, because the recipient is a registered person, and since you are a registered person, आपको इसके ऊपर क्या करना पड़ेगा? टैक्सेस पे करना पड़ेगा आरसीएम के अंदर। ओके, तो ये अलग अलग एग्जांपल्स क्लियर हुआ? यस। ये सिर्फ मेनली ना इसको मार्क करके रखो, ये हमेशा याद रखने का गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज। तो ये चेन याद रह गया। ओके, ये 110/2019 को आया था प्रोविजन, सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड बाय एंड टू अ फेडरेशन इंटरनेशनल डी फुटबॉल एसोसिएशन फीफा। तो उनके लिए या उनके सब्सिडरी के लिए अपने जो जो सर्विसेज दिया फॉर द फीफा 2000, फॉर द फीफा अंडर 17 वुमेन्स वर्ल्ड कप and 2020 to be hosted in India. I don't know it will happen because you know the current situation. So it would be considered as exempted from GST. So Ministry of Youth Affairs Sports certifies that the services are directly or indirectly related to the events under these two categories, then you would be getting the exemption. So let's wait and watch whether these means this World Cups have been held here or it is not being held. Mostly तो नहीं होगा. Okay. Then supply of services associated with the transit cargo of Nepal and Bhutan again has been exempted from taxes. So Nepal Bhutan के लिए special exemption दिया, उधर कुछ transit cargo भेज दिया, then it is not liable for taxes. Okay, then you have 9C. 9C is you can easily remember. Here the services are given by government entity टू सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, मतलब एक गवर्नमेंट एंटिटी ने दूसरे को दिया, लेकिन ये कौन से फॉर्मेट में दिया? तो दिस इज गिवन इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ग्रांट्स, कि एक एंटिटी ने दूसरे एंटिटी को सर्विस दिया इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ग्रांट। ग्रांट मतलब जैसे गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट हम लोग प्रोवाइड करते हैं, तो अगर गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट ऑफर किया है तो जो गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट हम लोग देंगे तो वो सर्विसेज क्या रहेगा? एग्जम्प्टेड फ्रॉम टैक्सेस रहेगा। बिकॉज इफ यू नो कि अगर कोई स्पॉन्सरशिप दे रहा है किसी को, तो एक तरीके का ग्रांट ही हुआ ना, कि लाइक किसी इवेंट को या किसी स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन को एक पार्टी स्पॉन्सर कर, मतलब क्या उसका पूरा खर्चा वो उठाते हैं, तो दिस इज कवर्ड अंडर स्पॉन्सरशिप सर्विस जो आरसीएम में टैक्सेबल होता है। तो ये ग्रांट भी टैक्सेबल हो सकता था, डिपार्टमेंट ने अपना पार्ट क्लियर कर दिया, दे सेड इट इज exempted from taxes because they have covered a separate point 9C. देन ओल्ड एज होम्स। अभी ओल्ड एज होम्स में सिर्फ लिमिट याद रखो, इसके ऊपर बड़ा क्वेश्चन नहीं आएगा, एमसीक्यूज में पूछ सकते हैं कि ओल्ड एज होम्स जो सेंट्रल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट रन कर, अभी सम of these old age homes are run on a very, you can say, at a very cheaper cost. Like they will charge you hardly anything, 5,000 to 10,000 a month, which is very small amount. Like if they are taking care of your food, clothing and other activities, then obviously the cost which they are charging is less. But certain cases for old people, the facilities should be more. Like as a young person, you can manage the activity, you can just climb up and down. But certain cases with old age, you have to provide certain facilities, extra facilities, like you need to have a separate medical equipments. Like some people with their operation of knees or the other operations, they may not be able to walk properly. So wheelchairs, or they cannot climb. So they need to have special lifts for them. So if this kind of facilities are provided to you, or again doctors will visit to the old age home. So in that case, the cost goes a bit on a higher side. But even though it is on a higher side, department is granting exemption to the extent of 25,000, which is quite a good amount. कि अगर 25,000 रुपया एक मेंबर से हर एक महीने के लिए कलेक्ट हो रहा है, तो भी ये एग्जम्प्टेड में आएगा. इससे ऊपर अगर चार्ज किया तो वो क्या होगा, टैक्सेबल कैटेगरी में आएगा. अदरवाइज इट वोंट कम अंडर द टैक्सेबल कैटेगरी. Okay, now next is, if you read this carefully, pure labor contract for construction, erection, commissioning, installation, completion, fitting out, etc. means mainly they're talking about the civil structure and the other like activities. But all these activities are provided for, they are provided for all urban mission और प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना. मार्क दिस सेपरेटली, इसको मार्किंग करके रखो, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. तो अगर प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना का आपको कोई सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर दिया, तो ये सर्विस क्या होगा, ये टैक्सेबल कैटेगरी के अंदर कवर अप हो जाएगा. सॉरी, एग्जम्प्टेड कैटेगरी के अंदर ये कवर अप हो जाएगा, तो इट वोंट बिकम टैक्सेबल. Under this scheme, government is providing you various benefits. Now, if you see certain people who are purchasing their house first time with the help of bank loan, they are getting tremendous subsidy from the government. Like government is compensating to the extent of 1 lakh, in some cases even 2.5 lakhs. वो extent तक government आपको support provide कर रहा है कि आप नया कर लो अपने लिए. But it should be one house for a person. Like उसने लाइफ में फर्स्ट टाइम घर लिया, तो उसके लिए बेनिफिट गवर्नमेंट ऑफर करता है. तो ये जो प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना के स्कीम के अंडर आपको जो बेनिफिट मिलता है, these benefits would be considered to be exempted from tax liability.
जीएसटी भी तो देते हैं सर
किस पे?
अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रॉपर्टी पे.
वो अलग. सी, ये कौन सा एक्टिविटी है? लेबर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ कंस्ट्रक्शन, मतलब जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर बिल्डर को जो चार्ज कर रहा है ना, उसमें
ओके
वो कंप्लीटली एग्जम्पशन में जाएगा.
ओके. तो नॉर्मल आदमी को भी मिलता ही है ना ये प्राइम मिनिस्टर आवास योजना का बेनिफिट?
हाँ, उनको भी मिलेगा. मतलब ये जो उनको जो कंसेशन मिलता है, फिर जो ग्रांट गवर्नमेंट आपको ऑफर करते हैं, या फिर लाइक पीपल टेक लोन फर्स्ट एंड बाद में उनको जो गवर्नमेंट से पैसा डायरेक्टली उनके अकाउंट में आता है, तो या इट इज अ काइंड ऑफ लोन रीपेमेंट जैसा हो जाता है. तो लोन रीपेमेंट कर दिया तो उसके लिए भी गवर्नमेंट डजंट चार्ज यू जीएसटी. नहीं तो मतलब ही नहीं ना, एक साइड से लोन रीपे करो, दूसरे साइड से वो जीएसटी का पैसा उठा लो या जीएसटी कलेक्ट करो. तो इसके लिए वो नॉन टैक्सेबल कैटेगरी में डालते हैं.
तो जैसे जीएसटी पहले 8% था और बाद में 1% हो गया, तो ऐसे में जो फ्लैट्स के प्राइस भी बढ़े हैं क्या, जिनका 1% हुआ, क्योंकि वो लोग अभी ये इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट नहीं ले सकते, तो फ्लैट्स के प्राइस भी बढ़े क्या उसके वजह से, 1% होने की वजह से?
नहीं, फ्लैट के प्राइस क्यों बढ़ेंगे?
क्योंकि वो लोग पहले क्रेडिट लेने को अलाउड था, तो अभी भी अलाउड है क्या?
नहीं, क्रेडिट लेना भी अलाउड नहीं है. नहीं, but the situation is, just a second, I'll keep मैं चार्जर लगाता हूँ. उनको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता, दिस इज रियलिटी. बट See, जब भी स्कीम आया 2019 में, the option was given to the builders. ऐसा नहीं कि सबको compulsion था. जो existing projects थे, उनको option दिया गया that you can continue with your old scheme or you can move to or you can switch to new scheme. Only thing is, if you are starting up a new project itself after this, then you will have to compulsory use the new method. So अगर आपने already under construction flat में आपने investment किया है या फिर जो project already start हो चुका है, there the builder or you can say that company has to take a call that which will be more beneficial for me. So they can choose.
फॉर एग्जाम्पल सर किसी ने जनवरी में अगर कोई अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रॉपर्टी लिया हाँ और तभी जीएसटी था 8%.
19 और 20?
19 में.
ओके 19. हाँ.
और फिर जब भी 8% से 1% हुआ जीएसटी अप्रैल में हुआ ना. हाँ उसके बाद किसी ने वही उसी अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रोजेक्ट में फ्लैट लिया तो उसको प्राइस उसका प्राइस ज्यादा होगा क्या? सेम प्रोजेक्ट का किसी ने जनवरी में खरीदा फ्लैट.
I got your question. It may happen the price is different. It may happen.
Okay.
I agree. But only problem here is one thing what you have said is perfectly fine and that is correct कि price change होगा because मेरा credit जा रहा है तो मैं cost बढ़ा दूँ. लेकिन दूसरा ये भी फैक्टर है. See ultimately आप सोचो as a buyer what do you think is important for you? Cost to the builder is important or the total cost that is important for you?
Total cost.
Total cost, right? And the total cost it will be inclusive of GST, right? Right. So when they are charging 8%, they are collecting and depositing. They are not getting any special benefit, right? But the customer is being overcharged at that point of time.
Yes.
Because customer was paying more. So yes. Ideally, the builders should consider this point that customer was paying more. So once that rate is reduced, he is losing some of his benefits कि उसका ITC जा रहा है. But ultimately जो customer price pay कर रहा है, suppose आज customer 50 लाख pay करने को ready है, but he is considering 50 lakh including GST, right?
Yes.
So one point is that he is losing the benefit, but then he can consider that 50 lakh is including GST of 1% and then he can decide his price.
Okay.
So customer is also not at problem.
Yes.
Nor the builder.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
But then it depends like how the builders have reacted to that. Like I give you the example in first lecture, like once the rate of restaurants was reduced from 18 to 5%, people kept the final prices same. Right?
Yes.
So ideally they should have given the benefit to customers as well, but they did not. Like some of the restaurants did, some of the restaurants did not. So ultimately it depends to that what kind of builder you are dealing with. So accordingly it happens. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Then yeah, labor contracts of construction, erection, commissioning or installation of original works pertaining to a single residential unit otherwise than residential complex. तो complex रहेगा उसको exemption नहीं है. Single residential unit रहेगा. Like मुझे एक छोटा row house जैसा construct करना और रहने के मेरे घर मेरा मतलब as my house मुझे रहने के लिए मैंने अगर labor contract services किसी से लिया pure labor contract. There's no question of material from their side. I will arrange the material. They have to just do the construction, erection, commissioning and installation. That's it. So in that case, sorry, their services would be considered as tax free. Then services provided by the fair price shops, मतलब इन शॉर्ट अपना रेशन शॉप्स कि जहाँ पे आपको कंसेशन अमाउंट पे फूड फैसिलिटी मिलता है. So by way of sale of wheat, rice, coarse grains under the PDS scheme against the consideration in the form of commission or margin. ये जो business चला रहा है उसका services tax free. So services provided by fair shops to central government by way of sale of food grains, kerosene, sugar, edible oil, etc. under PDS against the consideration for the commission of margin is also exempted from taxes. So initially they introduced for the wheat, rice and coarse grains, and subsequently they extended that list for food grains, kerosene, sugar, edible oil, etc. So then now the point is same, only thing is here you were providing services to central government, state government, now you are providing services to union territory. Only that is the difference. So that PDS service will also be exempted from taxes. Then you have services by way of renting of residential dwelling for use as residence. Now remember this point that when you let out a property for residing purpose or residential purposes, whatever rent you collect is not subject to GST. The rule is if you are letting out a flat for commercial purpose or as a commercial complex, then the GST is applicable. But again, the person who is letting out his flat, again that has to be a person who is having multiple properties. उसका एक ही property है and उसने commercial property let out करके साल का 10 लाख का rent collect कर दिया. So do you think he is required to get registration and pay GST? I'll repeat my question. If a person is renting out his commercial property and getting rent of 10 lakhs, is he required to get registration in GST and is he required to pay GST?
No.
Yes or no?
No,
No.
sir.
No. Yes. Because,
It is below
Turnover
20.
is less than 20 lakhs.
and that's why most of the cases, if you observe that many people who let out their commercial flats, still they don't pay GST. उसका रीजन यही है कि उनका टर्नओवर नहीं है, टर्नओवर नहीं है तो उनको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना कंपलसरी नहीं. तो सिर्फ ये पॉइंट देखना काफी नहीं है कि ये टैक्सेबल है एग्जम्प्टेड, हमें वो पर्सन टू पर्सन भी आइडेंटिफाई करना कि वेदर इट विल बी टैक्सेबल फॉर अ स्पेसिफिक पर्सन. अभी जिसके नाम पे ऑलरेडी 15 प्रॉपर्टी है, जो ऑलरेडी हर एक प्रॉपर्टी लेट आउट करके रेंट जमा कर रहा है, तो उसके लिए तो ये लिमिट तो उसका क्रॉस हुआ रहेगा 20 लाख का. तो इन हिज केस और हर केस वॉट एवर रेंट दे कलेक्ट that will be subject to GST and accordingly they will collect GST and deposit GST to the government. Okay. Then you have services by way of conducting any religious ceremony, then renting of the precincts of the religious place meant for general public, owned or managed by the entity registered as a charitable or religious trust under section 12AA of the Income Tax Act. Similar point, a trust or an institution registered under subclause 5 of clause 23C of section 10 of the Income Tax Act, or body or any authority which is covered under clause 23BBA of section 10 of the Income Tax Act. So these will be considered as exempted, provided they have given you certain conditions, provided that nothing contained in this entry of this exemption shall apply to. मतलब उन्होंने क्या कर दिया, उन्होंने बोल दिया कि रिलीजियस प्लेसेस में जो प्रोग्राम होता है, लाइक इफ यू सी मेनी गुरुद्वारास, और मंदिर में भी होता है बट गुरुद्वारा में वहां पे शादी उधर ही बहुत बार किया जाता है, तो वो केसेस में वहां पे वो जो हॉल शादी के लिए देते तो दे डोंट चार्ज लाइक द कमर्शियल हॉल्स, लाइक कमर्शियल जो आपके मैरिज हॉल्स वगैरह रहते हैं उतना चार्ज नहीं करते, दे चार्ज नॉमिनल अमाउंट. अभी नॉमिनल अमाउंट चार्ज करके अगर आपको वो प्लेस प्रेमाइसेस अगर लेट आउट किया फॉर कैरिंग आउट सम फंक्शन, in that case that will not be liable to taxes, but it should be in the precincts of the religious premises or religious places. तो जैसे हम लोग सिद्धिविनायक मंदिर बोलते हैं, तो सिद्धिविनायक मंदिर के आजू बाजू का जो ट्रस्ट का एरिया है, we are talking about that specific area. Or when you talk about Shirdi, so in Shirdi case or Shegaon you might have heard about, so or Balaji temple, so there they have got certain areas which are owned by the trust. So वो areas में आप देखोगे तो भक्त निवास या रेसिडेंशियल क्या बोल सकते हो उसको, एक दो दिन रहने के लिए वहां पे फैसिलिटी एकदम कम प्राइस में वो ऑफर कर, तो ये जो कम प्राइस में ऑफर कर रहे हैं, तो then that service become exempted from taxes because they have kept rules for this. Like if you see, there are certain polished and furnished and well equipped rooms also where they charge heavily, but बहुत कम रहता है, यूजुअली दे चार्ज लेस रेंट, और आपको चाहिए तो वैसा प्रीमाइसेस भी अवेलेबल है। तो जो प्रीमाइसेस में वो ये लिमिट के ऊपर का रेंट कलेक्ट करेंगे वो जीएसटी के अंदर कवर अप हो जाए। तो उसमें पहला पॉइंट देखते हैं, रेंटिंग ऑफ रूम्स वेयर द चार्जेस आर 1000 रुपी और मोर पर डे। मतलब हर एक दिन आप कम से कम 1000 रुपए उसके लिए चार्ज कर डेली के लिए। तो 1000 के ऊपर चार्ज किया जीएसटी के अंदर आ गया, 1000 के नीचे रहेगा तो जीएसटी में आप नहीं आओ। Then renting of premises, community halls, Kalyan Mandapam or open area or the like area where the charges are 10,000 or more per day. Like hall बहुत बड़ा hall रहता है कोई कोई places में, तो वहां पे hall के लिए सिर्फ वो 10 से 1000 से ज्यादा अमाउंट चार्ज कर। तो अगर वैसे चार्ज करने वाले तो अकॉर्डिंगली वो टैक्सेबल कैटेगरी में है। Lastly, renting of shops or other spaces for business or commerce where they are charging more than 10,000. उसके बाजू में रिलीजियस प्लेस के बाजू में छोटा छोटा शॉप्स रहते हैं, तो वो जो कमर्शियल शॉप्स है तो उधर अगर 10 से ज्यादा रेंट चार्ज किया तो योर ट्रांजैक्शन इज अगेन सब्जेक्ट टू जीएसटी, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी पे करना पड़ेगा। अंडरस्टूड? तो ये 3 पॉइंट याद रखो। एक तो रेंटिंग ऑफ हाउस प्रॉपर्टी फॉर more than 1000 per day, then renting of all premises, then open areas, कल्याण मंडपम। सो ये जो एरियाज है वहां पे आपको 10,000 रुपीज का पर डे चार्जेस रहेगा, तो एग्जाम उससे ज्यादा रहेगा तो टैक्स। लास्टली रेंटिंग ऑफ शॉप्स और अदर स्पेसेस फॉर बिजनेस और कॉमर्स, जहाँ पे हम लोग 10,000 से ज्यादा मंथली रेंट कलेक्ट करते हैं। तो ये तीनों केस में क्या होगा, आपका सर्विस विल कम अंडर द टैक्सेबल कैटेगरी। Just explain those points. Okay. Then lastly, if you see services provided by person by way of renting of precincts of religious places meant for general public, like general public utility services आपने कुछ वहाँ पे offer कर दिया या provide किया, so then that will come as a exempted service. Then you have point number 14. If you remember for hotels, there was certain criteria. वहाँ पे tariff value आप लोगों को याद है, तो tariff value के हिसाब से हम लोग GST charge करते हैं. But now that concept has been changed, and now the change has occurred wherein the value of supply would be replaced by the declared tariff. हाँ? अब ये कैसे होगा, तो उसके लिए point number 14 mark करो and एक बार read कर लो, because this is important and in exams they won't give you this table. ये टेबल देंगे नहीं आपको, रिमेम्बर याद रखना पड़ेगा, तो एक बार ये क्विकली रीड करो फिर हम लोग ये पॉइंट्स के ऊपर आ जाए। देख लिया? अभी यहाँ पे है, if you observe renting of hotels, inns, guest house, clubs, campsites, अभी ये जो हम लोग लेट आउट कर रहे हैं तो उसमें आपका रेंट, रूम रेंट कितना होना चाहिए? टैरिफ 1000 to 2500, देन द टैक्स रेट इज 12%, आईटीसी आपको मिल जाएगा। उसका इनडायरेक्ट मीनिंग है 1000 के नीचे अगर आप रेंट चार्ज कर रहे हो तो देन इट इज नॉट सब्जेक्ट टू जीएसटी, उसके ऊपर आपको जीएसटी भरना नहीं पड़ेगा। देन यू हैव रेंटिंग ऑफ होटल्स, जहाँ पे रेंट 2500 to 7500 के बीच में, बट यहाँ पे भी आपको डिक्लेयर टैरिफ नहीं देखना है। डिक्लेयर टैरिफ का मतलब है आप जब भी होटल में जाते हो तो आपको एक कार्ड दिखाता है, ये 12 ओ क्लॉक को आपने लॉक ये कर दिया, चेक इन कर दिया, तो आप चेकआउट कभी करोगे तो नेक्स्ट डे उनका कुछ जैसे शेड्यूल रहेगा या उनका जैसे रूल्स रहेगा उसके हिसाब से। तो समटाइम्स यू नेगोशिएट एंड दे गिव यू सम बेनिफिट और दे ऑफर यू एट अ डिस्काउंटेड प्राइस। तो यहाँ पे हमें डिक्लेयर टैरिफ नहीं देखना, मतलब वहां पे उनके क्या बोलते हैं, उनके मेनू नहीं, उनके लिस्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज में उन्होंने कितना रूम रेंट रखा है, तो कैटलॉग में जो रूम रेंट उन्होंने मेंशन किया है उसको हम लोग बोलेंगे डिक्लेयर्ड टैरिफ। डिक्लेयर्ड टैरिफ पहले इंपॉर्टेंट था, बट अभी हम लोग देखेंगे कि वो कितना चार्ज कर रहा है। तो पहले प्रोविजन ऐसा था कि अगर डिक्लेयर्ड टैरिफ है लेट अस से 3000 and you are offering him discount and now you are charging him only 2000 for half a day for example, तो डिक्लेयर्ड टैरिफ है 3000, तो तभी उनका रूल था कि 3000 फॉल्स इन सेकंड कैटेगरी, तो यू शुड चार्ज हिम 18% as GST rate. But now what we have to consider is we have to consider value of supply. And what is value of supply is how much I'm getting from rendering the service or whatever I'm getting in the form of cash or any other benefit. तो वो benefit को हम लोग measure करेंगे कि कितना benefit हो रहा है, तो वो benefit या वो amount आपको कितना मिल रहा है? सिर्फ 2000 मिल रहा है, तो 2000 फॉल्स अंडर द फर्स्ट कैटेगरी। तो अभी आप लोग जीएसटी रेट कितना अप्लाई करोगे? इफ दैट सिचुएशन ऑकर्स नाउ यू विल अप्लाई जीएसटी रेट एज 12%, तो 12% के हिसाब से आप क्या करोगे? जीएसटी चार्ज करोगे। सो दैट अप्लाइज एवरीवेयर, लाइक नेक्स्ट कैटेगरी में भी, कि अगर आपका प्रीमाइसेस का रेंट 7500 या रूम रेंट 7500 पर मंथ के ऊपर चला गया, सॉरी पर डे के ऊपर चला गया, तो वो सिचुएशन में जीएसटी रेट 28% से लगेगा। एंड यू नो 5 स्टार्स में दे चार्ज एक्सॉर्बिटेंट, तो वो जो रूम रेंट वो चार्ज कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर 28% से उनको जीएसटी भी देना पड़ेगा। सो अकॉर्डिंगली नाउ रिमेंबर अप टू 1000 नो टैक्स, 1000 to 2500 you have to charge at 12%, 2500 to 7500 you have to charge at 18%, and above 7500 you have to charge 28%. But luckily in all the situations the GST credit or input tax credit is completely available, so there's no problem as far as ITC is concerned. You still can avail the benefit of input tax credit. All right, let us look one more and then we'll go for practical questions. uh, Okay, transport of passengers with or without accompanied belongings by. अभी ये पैसेंजर को ट्रांसपोर्ट करने का जो सर्विस है वो किसने किसको दिया? तो एयर एम्बार्किंग फ्रॉम एन टर्मिनेटिंग इन एन एयरपोर्ट लोकेटेड इन द स्टेट ऑफ अरुणाचल प्रदेश, आसाम, मणिपुर, मेघालय, मिजोरम, नागालैंड, सिक्किम, त्रिपुरा, पगडोगरा which is located in West Bengal. तो इस स्पेसिफिक एयरपोर्ट को डेवलप करने के लिए जहाँ पे हम लोग ट्रांसपोर्ट फैसिलिटी ऑफ पैसेंजर्स प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, तो वो टैक्स फ्री कैटेगरी में आएगा। Then non-AC contract carriages other than radio taxi for transportation of passengers excluding tourism conducted to charter or hire. Lastly, stage carrier other than AC stage carrier. तो एसी स्टेज कैरियर छोड़ के बाकी जो भी रहेगा वो हम लोग टैक्स सॉरी एसी कैटेगरी छोड़ के बाकी का रहेगा वो एग्जम्प्टेड कैटेगरी में जाएगा, एसी कैटेगरी टैक्सेबल में। अभी ये जो चार्ट दिया वो इम्पोर्टेंट है सबसे, बिकॉज एयर ट्रैवल में अलग अलग क्लासेस होते हैं, तो इकोनॉमी क्लास एंड बिजनेस क्लास. If you travel by business class, then GST rate obviously would be higher, 18%. ITC would be allowed, capital goods will be allowed, input credit will be allowed for all the three, but it is credit for input services. If you're taking credit of input goods, then the credit is not allowed when the rate is 5%. So just remember, if the economy rate is 5% or you are embarking from or terminating in a regional connectivity scheme airport, then GST rate is less, it is only 5%. But if you are traveling through business class, then GST rate zoom, it is directly 12%. And obviously when the rate is higher, you tend to offer the discount. So here the input tax credit, as you can see here input tax credit is available for all the three. For all the three, input tax credit is allowed because one thing is it is business class. Secondly, the people have spent huge amount on this, so that will be considered. Then you have 16th service, which is in connection with transport. So let us complete the transport facilities. So it is 16, 17. Okay, we'll do 16 and then we'll go for the practical question. So services provided to central government by way of transport of passengers with or without accompanying belongings by air, embarking from or terminating at a regional connectivity airport against consideration in the form of viability gap funding, provided that nothing contained in this entry shall apply on or after the expiry of period of 1 year from the commencement of the operation. या आपने इनकम टैक्स में भी देखा रहेगा कि सर्टेन पीरियड के लिए उनको एग्जाम्पशन दिया गया कि जो रीजनल कनेक्टिंग एयरपोर्ट्स है या फिर जो फ्लाइट्स है कि अगर आपको एक स्पेसिफिक एरिया में जाना रहेगा, सो देन यू गेट अ वाया वाया टिकट. सो पीपल डू लॉट ऑफ ट्रैवलिंग विद द हेल्प ऑफ इंटरवीन ट्रैवलिंग बिटवीन. Like suppose one of the times it happened that I want to go to Hyderabad for some work, but there was a connecting flight. So first it dropped me at Shirdi, and from Shirdi there was another connective flight from Shirdi to Hyderabad. So it happened that I got a ticket like this, but sometimes people do plan to get this facility or to get this two things in one stroke. So one visit they can have two different places to be visited. So that was feasible or that was done. So ये एक था इंटरनल कनेक्टिविटी कि एक एयरपोर्ट से दूसरे एयरपोर्ट पे विद इन इंडिया जाए. बट रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी मीन सर्टेन केसेस जो बड़े फ्लाइट्स है वो हर एक छोटे छोटे जगह पे नहीं जाते. जैसे आपने सुना रहेगा नेपाल में जाने के लिए यू नीड टू हैव टू कनेक्टिंग फ्लाइट्स. लाइकवाइज देयर आर सर्टेन एरियाज जहाँ पे बड़े फ्लाइट्स लैंड नहीं कर सकते, तो यू विल लैंड इन अ लाइक big or huge or giant flight. You'll come down and then you will get into another flight which is maybe small flight but which will take you to the destination. So that is the regional connectivity. So that gap for viability of the gap funding, so it is there for 3 years from the date of commencement of regional connectivity scheme airport from the present period of 1 year. तो एक साल का उनको पता चला कि एक साल में ये सब होना मुश्किल है, तो उन्होंने एक साल का क्या कर दिया, सीधा 3 साल का स्पैन उन्होंने